All right. So, dear Francesco, I am very honored to have you as my first guest for
Oh,
this
wow.
FoRCE Forum on Robotics and Control Engineering interview series. Um, I would like to ask you 10 questions, which are two general questions, two research-related questions, and two education and several personal questions that I am eager to hear your responses to. Um, if you are ready, we can start with the first question.
Sure. Well, good morning, everybody, and hope this video will reach you in good order. So yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Tansel. Thank you so much for the invitation, of course.
All right. So Francesco Bullo, before I am doing also for the first time, and Francesco Bullo is from UC Santa Barbara, professor of mechanical engineering. Now I will start with the first question. So since you are one of the role models in control systems field, the first question is about what inspired you to pursue a career in control systems, and how did you get started?
How did I guess? Okay. First of all, thank you for again the invitation. Thank you for all of your work, Tansel, as a volunteer, helping the community, the society, and I certainly am not sure I would consider myself a role model, but I will see the best that I can reply to your question. So basically, I thinking back at when I was younger, what inspired me at the beginning were really amazing teachers that I was fortunate in my life to encounter all the way uh, from the beginning, from almost elementary, middle school, high school, fantastic teachers, uh, um, and then of course University of Padua, where I was a student of for my undergraduate degrees. So that really made a difference. Made a difference. Right. Corina Pasti was my high school teacher. Giorgio Picci was a professor at the University of Padua who was very inspiring. And then, yeah, and more. I'll mention another person later. And what I really liked about the field of systems and control theory is its rigor and its generality, and the large number of examples that you can tackle, that you can consider. So that richness was really appealing, and and the mathematical beauty with which one can try to be relevant in all of these different fields. So the combination of the two, I think, having really inspiring teachers that were, yeah, and the subject matter.
Awesome. How do you maintain, you are very productive. So how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance? Like, can you want to talk about that? Maybe your hobbies, activities outside, control systems. And do you have any advice to young professionals?
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, it's sort of two questions. Definitely, you need to have a good balance between work and life, and you need to maintain. So I try to be healthy. Some sport, here we have good weather, so I can swim more or less all year long. Biking, every once in a while we're lucky we get to go skiing. Um, I do keep in touch a lot with family and friends, even though I live far away from many of them. And a tiny bit of, yeah, just spending time with friends and family, and so on and so forth. That's the first question about
Yes.
maintaining a healthy work life. And
The
then in
second
terms
one is
of,
any advice? Yes.
yeah, any advice for young professionals? Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I have the right to give advice. So my advice is worth 2 cents, as they say. But what I know, what worked for me was, doing what I well, of course, certainly maintaining the balance. Work can be stressful. The problems are. We live in a profession where your research problem is never solved. As soon as you solve it and you publish it, immediately you have another problem. So you're always stuck working on a problem that you haven't solved yet. So, but in any case, um, do what you love, keep an open mind. I think read a lot from possibly from other disciplines, and try to publish even towards other audiences. Publish means reading how they think and how they work, and then writing, which really means, having really understood it in the way they understand it. I think control theory is fantastic for its rigor and wide applicability, but there is also a little danger sometimes to get lost in the details of some of the proofs and some of the technical matters. And so I think maybe that's my advice. Yeah.
Thanks, Francesco. So I would like to move to research-related questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is, suppose you had the ability to use your expertise in control systems to address one of today's major global issues. Which issue would you choose? And you can also talk about your research, which is already doing progress that makes significant impact.
Great question, Tansel. Yeah, there are so many big, important scientific and technological issues out there. The one I have become attracted to lately is just understanding machine learning and neuroscience, or understand, well, not the whole fields, of course, because those are enormous, but understanding more deeply some of the phenomena, some of the systems and theoretical problems that arise in those disciplines. As you all know, machine learning is poised to make huge changes in the world, and there are all sorts of points of connection and overlap with systems theory. I mean, I think many smart scientists are trying to design robust machine learning systems that are robust, that are adaptive, that are explainable. That would be a dream, to be able to use our methods from systems and control theory in that context.
I agree. Explainable is the key. Yeah.
Explainable is one very important aspect. Robust as well, like tiny perturbations in the input will generate wrong decisions in safety critical missions. That spells disaster. And these systems are going to be adaptive. Perhaps they're going to continue to acquire new data and change their behavior. So how do you ensure that it all works? And one aspect I like about it is the fact that that our brains and animal brains and biological neural networks, not only artificial, exhibit already absolutely stunning behavior in many regards. And so I find this intersection between systems and control, neuroscience, and machine learning to be extremely exciting. And that's what I would like to try to do. So you mentioned my own research. Yeah, I am trying to develop, well, the field of neural networks, of course, itself is huge. So trying to make some contributions there, understanding that. And the tools that I'm developing to do that are related to this field of contraction theory. So contraction theory is a version of stability theory that is inherently robust and computationally friendly. And so that's what I am hoping to bring to bear, and trying to understand all sorts of problems having to do with robust behavior of neural networks, optimization problems that neural networks solve. For example, unsupervised representation learning is there are biologically plausible recurrent neural networks that solve it with Hebbian learning embedded in them, and so on and so forth. So I that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Thanks, Francesco. I mean, you partially answered the next question I was planning to ask, but if you were to predict the next moonshot research direction that would capture the world's imagination, what would it be?
It's a great question, Tansel. It's such a great question. When I was young, I remember going to CDC and IFAC World Congress and other ACC, ECC, and so forth. I would go to the senior leaders, to the prestigious, I would go and I would say, "Dear Steve Morse, dear Brian Anderson, dear Jerry Marsden, dear John Doyle," and so forth. And to be honest with you, I don't think anybody knows. To be honest, it's hard to predict. I don't know. I mean, what will be a game changer? If you had to tell you how I've made so many mistakes trying to predict things in the future. It's just very difficult. The first time I saw an averaging algorithm, in the context of consensus. I remember thinking, oh, but that's not very interesting. Why would I want to do that? That's a very naive. And now, as you know, I teach it to my students. I wrote a book on it. So just then other times, and then when machine learning began to become relevant, or so relevant, began to acquire. So in 2012 there was a breakthrough paper, and I remember for several years thinking, this is really hopeless. This is really not relevant. I'm not going to worry about it. And of course I'm working on it right now. So just to set the record straight, it's very difficult to predict, especially the future. And so I don't know. So I think right now the reason I'm trying to work at the intersection between machine learning, neuroscience, and control is because I think that area will be relevant. Another area I really like are well, it's sort of related. It's mixed human AI systems in which individuals are interacting among themselves and interacting with intelligent systems, AI systems, and so forth. So that's also an area that I find fascinating. But more broadly, I mean, I think your guess is as good as mine as to what will be the major new idea that will change the world.
Thanks, Francesco. So I would like to move to more to the education, and you are doing especially a great outreach, as with regard to education as well. In my opinion, your books are freely downloadable, lectures on network systems, contraction theory for dynamical systems, as well as your lecture videos, on YouTube. Personally, I'm trying to do these days the same, like especially adaptive control and learning, put it to YouTube, right. Be more reachable. So the first question, I'm going to ask the second question that I was planning to ask the first with regard to that. With the rise of distance learning, online education, AI, how do you envision the future of classroom?
That's a fantastic question for all of us to ponder. Clearly, technology is having a huge impact. It has already had a huge impact. I mean, I remember taking the bus to going to a library in a research laboratory out of town in order to make a photocopy of a conference paper. That's what was the state of the art when I started. Nowadays, everything is readily accessible. Any question you have, Wikipedia gives you a quick and dirty answer. Then you go check it out in a more reliable source. Not to mention ChatGPT gives you even more, all sorts of answers, possibly hallucinating. It used to be the case that to publish a book, you would have to make it as perfect as you can, and then kiss it goodbye, sign off your copyrights, rarely be able to touch it, and it would belong to a publisher. Now, instead, there are methods you can broadcast your PDF available. You can even have it published and printed on demand while retaining the copyrights and keeping a low cost. So I do it that way, and these are things that just a few years back all of these things were simply not possible. And YouTube is another fantastic tool. Twitter for quick dissemination, or LinkedIn, but YouTube allows you to record your lectures, and I would love to be able to watch lectures taught by the giants of the past.
Exactly.
So YouTube are an incredible resource, I think. Now, even ChatGPT, or these large language models, if used properly, can help polish your message. Now, what will the future hold in store? Okay, I mean, I think if you dream and you imagine that this language model truly become more reliable and more accurate, then you can imagine having, all sorts of, you can imagine a software system supervised by an instructor design personalized courses with differentiated modules depending upon your background. You could imagine adaptive. It's like a control problem. Adaptive teaching, I give you a task, I give you an assignment, you solve it easy. Okay, let's move to the next. You don't solve it. Okay, then let's go back and review this particular technical part. You like this topic, okay, perfect. Here's a quick link. You do more on this, you do less on that, or So personalized content, adaptive lecturing, diverse perspectives. It could all be quickly generated. You could. Here's another idea I was mentioning about mixed human AI teams. You could imagine having conversations about, you could have with adaptive systems, sort of virtual meetings where you are discussing these topics and interacting. We are still very far away from such future. I don't, we're all experimenting with bringing these tools into the classroom. I think for sure, for example, programming used to be like very keen explanations of the syntax of all the rules, and so on and so forth. So now I will be experimenting soon with large language model helping my students program, because you can ask one of these systems to generate code for you. And of course, you need to understand the semantic of what's really happening.
Yeah.
Easily, the code can the software system can generate all sorts of mistakes. But it does. I think it breaks down. So there used to be a dichotomy: are we going to teach this programming language or that programming language? All of a sudden, this question is relatively irrelevant, because first of all, you can ask the software to translate from one language to the other anything you have, and if you have problem with the syntax, it will help you solve it. So I think there are barriers that are being removed right now. And then, okay, so there's lots of experimentation going on. And finally, I would say, however, of course, we all know that, but it doesn't hurt to repeat, over-reliance on these tools will lead to problems. So it's imperative that our students, continue to develop critical thinking skills.
Absolutely.
And I mean, whatever we do with these new systems, it should never replace that aspect, because otherwise we fail to train them.
That's right. So all these, I started to also do experiments right now, like flip the classroom type of stuff, especially, last semester, like, some online videos.
Yeah.
Now, how do you think our the role of the professors will evolve in the coming years with regard to your first answer? Like, for example, will there be, for example, this was something I was discussing with Eric Ferron 1.5 years ago or so. Like, let's say network systems module, construction theory module online. Will the students knock our doors just to ask questions, or what our role will be?
That's a fantastic question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think that we probably will end up relying on some of these pre-recorded lectures by either ourselves or by others. I know for sure many of us are already doing for bits and pieces of it. The flipped classroom model is one that many of us have used in the past and will continue to be there. I think students, one would argue, students still would very, very much benefit from one-on-one, from personal contact, personal interconnection, personal interaction,
Of course.
And personalized teaching. So I think it is going to be more and more integrated. I don't know. UC Santa Barbara, where I work at, is part of the UC system, and we are sister campuses. So there's some that the question is, how do we use all of these resources so that we are able to do more than what we used to be able to. I think there's some hesitation on the side of many colleagues on widely adopting online teaching and so on and so forth, but to some extent maybe that's inevitable, and we need to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, I also like, I like online stuff, but I also like, one-to-one discussions with the students, and teaching it is fun,
Yeah. Absolutely, and interactive, because
interactive.
YouTube recording is one thing. An online class with students who can ask is still interactive. I think better collaborative tools where students can if we all had a shared whiteboard and it's very easy to use, and the students can help you or can try to solve problems together. I should experiment with that. I haven't done it yet. Yeah, dear Tansel, you asked a very good question. I don't know the answer. I think we are in a new world that is rapidly evolving, and every year is a new fun challenge.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Francesco. I mean, some of the questions I am asking, I also don't know the answer. So I am just, asking, what I
Yeah,
would like to discuss. Yeah, thanks a lot. I would
sure.
like to move to, more personal questions that I am eager to hear your responses to.
Yeah.
Can you share a memorable experience or encounter you have had with a mentor, colleague, or a student that has left a lasting impression on you and on your work?
Yes. Thank you. And that's one more of the inspiring instructors that I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation. I remember my first time in the United States. Traveling from Italy, I met a professor. I was a visiting student at UC San Diego, and I met a professor there called Elias Masri, and he passed recently. He was already a senior a faculty, successful, distinguished faculty at the time I was there, which was long ago. And Right, and because of that, because of his recent passing, I had a chance to remember and reminisce about all of those times that we spent together. He really, Dr. Masri, played a key role in shaping my decision to remain in academia, pursue research. I wrote my first conference paper and my first journal paper with him. And I remember him saying, just to tell you how young and naive I was, I remember him saying to me, Francesco, I think you have a career in academia if you want. And I remember distinctly my answer was, but Dr. Masri, what is academia? So this was in the early 90s. So that was a while back. And so yes, that tells you that despite all of the or after all of the mathematics and all of the science and all of the societal impact and after everything is said and done, really the personal contacts are what drives us and what makes a difference in our lives, I think.
Thanks a lot. So, if you could collaborate with any famous scientist or engineer from history, or simply with a historical figure from control systems field, I mean, who would it be and why?
Oh, come on, Tansel, this is too crazy. Well, look, I have somewhere on my website, I have the list of all of the, all my academic genealogy, right? My advisor, the advisor of my advisor,
Yeah.
all the way back to Lagrange and the Bernoullis and Gauss. So, okay, so let me just make a blanket statement. I would love to have a paper with every one of my academic, which is of course impossible. Um, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I think when I was doing my PhD, I had a chance of meeting Jerry Marsden, and he was so inspiring and fantastic. And to my regret, we didn't have a chance to write a paper together, so that happened. That did not happen. And then I also I remember when I was young, really loving the work of Roger Brockett, and I never had a chance to work with him as well. And finally, lately now in this contraction theory, I realize I've read a few papers by a fantastic scientist. Charlie Desor is another person I would love to have met and work with. Of course, we didn't even overlap at all time-wise. So yeah, so these are some random names, and I know that I have insulted many other people right now, but
No.
to be clear, it's just some random names that come to mind thinking about your crazy question, dear Tansel.
Sure thing. I would like to move to more like a YouTube like a question. So
Yes, right.
if you had to debunk one common myth or misconception about control systems, what could it be and why?
You catch me flat-footed here, Tansel. I don't know if there are many misconceptions or myths. I mean, I think we all are painfully aware that the real world out there doesn't even know what we're doing and does not understand it. That it's control is a hidden technology. We all know that instead it can be everywhere. It can be relevant, but people don't know it. So maybe the misconception is that it would be great if we and I know that a lot of wonderful work has been done by for example, I know Professor Anaswamy has put a lot of time into all sorts of disseminations. Many of us have done all sorts of dissemination. I think, yeah, I don't know. I'll leave it at that, Tansel. I don't know the answer to. I don't know what would be a misconception. I think there's a lack of transparency in what we do. You know, when I talk to my friends and people outside of academia, they don't know what controls is. So I'm always looking for the right words to explain it.
Yeah, the reason I am asking this is the motivation. One of the students, undergraduate students who were, who was taking my class was, after he took my class, he mentioned that after taking your class, I was planning to build a legged, robot that was walking around in an autonomous. And I said, like, controls is the brain, like it is like interdisciplinary. You need to collaborate. Yeah, that was my motivation. So my final question is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Here's my answer. I would tell my younger self, don't listen to your older self and do what you please anyway. Yes, I mean, no, I don't know. I think we all do what we should do. What we think it's enjoyable, it's relevant, it's motivating us, it's inspiring us, and I've always more or less done that. I think without the more or less, I've always done that, and I don't know that I would want to change that.
Thanks so much. And Francesco, that was all. I want to express one more time, my gratitude for your time and willingness, and to share your responses to my sometimes painful questions. And no thanks so much.
Thank you, Tansel. Thank you. And yeah, greetings to all of your watchers.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bye-bye.